welcome to Preseason Week 4 episode of the Trap NFL Podcast. I'm here today with Curtis and
Hey,
Chance.
hey guys,
Hey
how's it
guys,
going?
how you going?
Alright, we'll be covering a bunch of stuff today. The main thing we'll start off with, though, is a bunch of monster contracts. Re-signing players, free agency, you name it.
Yeah, so I think we saw a lot of these contracts coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Was the first contract that came out the OBJ contract this week?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Or Rogers, one of them.
in private, we had a little conversation about OBJ contracts, and you said what did you say, Chance?
I just said if he stays healthy, it's just going to be, really well worth the money. I think he's worth $90 million if he can play the full 16 games.
Yeah, because I think I remember us saying like this was like a month ago or something. We went, oh, this is how much OBJ should get paid, and I think I almost said this contract to the dollar, except for the guarantee amount. I said 100% guaranteed for 17 a year.
Yeah, I had him around that 90 to 100 mil range.
Yeah,
so...
I think you said he was worth like 100 mil over 4. You even said so.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this, Greg, being a Giants fan?
I can't, like, this is one of those things I saw coming because it's so clear we need the guy. So, to sign him that kind of contract, it really makes sense and that kind of thing. And he's been one of those players that's just really delivered since day one. So I think it was well deserved and that kind of thing. Very committed as well in the off season. So it just really showed we got a big contract coming off for this guy.
Yeah, he has been the angel of New York for the last like a month, hasn't he? I don't think I've heard anything about OBJ in any of the media for since there was that spring where he was caught in the hotel in Paris with that model and the lines of white powder, which we're not going to get into.
You ask any big blue fan, bandwagon big blue fan, and they can only think of OBJ really.
Yeah, I mean,
true.
he's definitely you're buying the not just the player but his brand as well.
Yeah, I think, but really, just that signing just really speaks for itself. There's nothing else to add to it. Like, saw it coming. We need the guy, and we'll just move on and see how it goes.
A contract that I don't think any of us saw coming was the Chicago Bears stealing Khalil Mack from Oakland.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for Khalil Mack, 141.06.
He's now the highest paid defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
Full time.
Yeah, I think it might be, I don't think he's worth more than, Donald or anything, but, I think Chicago really needed a leader to in that defensive role sort of thing. So I guess he was the best pick left in the free agency, so you might as well try and throw as much money as you can at him.
Do you guys know if Chicago went after Sue when he was on free agency?
I think they did, yeah.
They were one of the teams, okay.
Yeah, they were only going for I think 3 or 4 year deal, but not as much as what we're talking about. So.
Yeah, because Sue was given he's on a 1-year prove-it contract with the Rams, isn't he, for some stupid amount of money?
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's a smart move though.
Yeah, I mean, Khalil Mack is one of those premier pass rushers in the league. I think you could put him in the same echelon as your JJ Watts, your Joey Bosa's, these guys that are going to get top tier contracts for the next 10 years in the league.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I gotta ask though, what was Oakland thinking?
Yeah.
It's Oakland, man. They've had one good year, and everyone was like, you know what? I think they're going to be dangerous for a long time. And then the injury to Carr, just all of a sudden they're just gone. Well, since Carr's injured, might as well just lose the plot and just destroy our franchise.
Do you think this is Oakland saying to the entire league, we are in rebuild mode? There's no way that they're competing for a championship this year. Their division is getting increasingly tougher. People are making jokes about the AFC West being the worst division in football, but that's a sneaky good division with Denver and the Chargers in there, and even the Chiefs. The Chiefs, depending on how Mahomes plays, could be, a very dangerous team to go up against.
So you're saying they're really a dark horse division?
I mean, yeah, I think that entire division is underrated. And then, do you think that they just looked at their division and then they looked at the AFC and they're like, well, guess we'll just go into rebuild and not bother signing Mac to this monster contract to eat up all that cap space?
Did they even offer him a contract? I'm not.
I don't think they did. If they did, because he's been in holdout since last season. He hasn't gone to any preseason games. He hasn't been at a single workout. He missed OTAs, so if there has been any communication between like Oakland and him, it's clearly been ineffective.
Well, yeah, well, that's a good sign for the Bears, man.
Mm.
I think Bears fans need something to cheer about, and I think this is it.
Well, do you think that the Bears, with this move and like the rest of their off-season moves, are actually genuine contenders for a wildcard spot now?
Nah, probably not.
No. I know he's an amazing player. There's no doubt. Khalil Mack's one of the premier pass rushers in the league, but I don't think I don't think with Chicago at that stage where they're just going to turn around just like that and suddenly they're all in the playoffs and that kind of thing.
Well, think of it like this, I think the Bears are in a really tough division.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the toughest divisions in football, and they have a really really tough run. I think for the first couple of weeks they play teams, rebuilding teams like the Dolphins, Bucks, and so forth. But other than that, they play some quality teams. So I don't think they're gonna be better than they were last year. However, I don't think they're not in that stage where they'll be competing for a wild card yet.
Do you think the fact that they're going up against those rebuilding teams for the first 5 weeks gives that basically brand new offense a chance to gel, because their entire wide receiving core is basically free agency? Like,
I think I think it's really good for the Bears. Like looking at their schedule, they play, obviously out of the Packers in week 1, but then they have like the next 4 games are Seahawks, Cards, Bucks, and Dolphins. So that's 4 good games before they play another quality team in the Pats. So it gives them time to gel and to bond over it. But you could see them going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That could be 3-2 potentially. So
yeah. Well, did you have anything to say about that as well, Greg? Or
I was just going to add to what Chan said. Like, I agree. It's again, this is. I think it's all together. If I had to pretty much summarize it, I'll just say it looks promising.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of those teams that they're so young. Like, they're probably going to be better in 5 years than they are now. With Trubisky still on that rookie contract, like, assuming that they're able to maintain form and keep getting good free agencies, that they might actually be able to take that that wildcard spot, depending on how Green Bay and Minnesota go. Because I don't think that the Lions realistically have a chance of stealing that 1 or 2 seed anytime in the next 4 years.
No.
If I have to say something, Jordan Howard and the Bears also brings a pretty good run game as well. So
yeah,
young team, looking promising, and we'll see how it goes from there.
And I guess staying in the division, we might as well talk about that ridiculous Aaron Rodgers contract.
Yeah, well worth it. I think he's the second best quarterback in the league behind Tom Brady. And I'm not a Rodgers fan. But it's well worth the money. I think you know what you're getting from Rodgers every week. I think it's a good way for Green Bay to spend their money. They added some really good pieces offensively for Rodgers to throw to. So I think they're going to be a really good team this year. And just this Rodgers contract really just proves how much they love Rodgers in Green Bay.
Yeah, for sure. I think everything you said there is correct. The question I throw out to the both of you is, do you think that if you were in Rodgers' shoes, would you have taken a pay cut if it meant that you knew that you could get a better couple players around you, like what Tom Brady does? Tom Brady is only paid $15 million a year, and he's considered the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, he's in that discussion. If you're Rodgers and you're thinking, I want to win another Super Bowl, do you care about the money at that point, or is it just, I want to succeed and prove to everyone that I am as good as I know I am?
I think with the team they got now, they could, they were right up there as favourites to win the Super Bowl, I think. But, if I was Rodgers, how old is he? In his early 30s, right? I think, he's got another 4 years, so maybe after this contract, he will take the pay cut, maybe. Because you can make the assumption that the Packers are just going to be good for a long, long time.
Because the reason I bring that up is because you look at what happened to Green Bay last year. They brought in Brett Hundley, and they looked like the Browns. Like, they were unwatchable.
Yeah,
they were genuinely unwatchable without Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but I'd like to get Greg's thought on this, purely because, I think he's a massive Aaron Rodgers fan.
I respect the guy for sure, but If I was in his shoes, you see, this is a really interesting thing to think about because there are both sides to really argue on it. Like again, one of the best one of the best quarterbacks in the league for sure, hands down. The dude can carry a franchise, but does he really need a big contract to show it? If I was in his shoes, I wouldn't need like a monster contract to really just establish myself as one of the best in that kind of. We already know that it's already solid foundation there. But in saying like, if I was to look at it, like, I'm really tossing words here and that kind of thing, but like overall, if I was in issues, yeah, I wouldn't, I'd be happy to, like go on a solid contract, like a pretty big one, but not one that's like just as inflated as that kind of thing, just a monster contract like that.
Because like I think looking at QB contracts that's happened in this offseason, it makes sense the guys that have got the monster contracts. You've got your Kirk Cousins, you've got your Matty Ices, the guys that have proven that they are in that top 10 quarterbacks or at least above average. Like I don't know, I think we all can agree that Kirk Cousins is super underrated.
Yeah.
Like I think Kirk Cousins is probably a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for those guys to just go and go get those ridiculous monster contracts because they're not going to be in the conversation of greatest. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, with only one Super Bowl win, already is. Like, if he can just get more hardware, like more rings, then I don't think it becomes a conversation anymore. I think it just becomes he has just a better arm and better stats than Brady did.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Like to me, if I was in Rodgers' shoes, that's what I would be thinking. If I was in Green Bay's shoes, that's what I'd be trying to ask him. But I mean,
you know what I'm thinking? If I was in Rodgers' shoes, I want a better blocking game.
yeah, they need an offensive line. Like,
just having a better blocking game, just like buys you all the time to virtually do anything.
Well, yeah. Oh well, but I still think they're gonna be really good. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like with Rodgers back, they're probably a 10, 11 win team, which is probably more than enough to clinch that division.
Yeah, and like I said, he's one of those guys who can carry a franchise.
Yeah. That's all of the big contracts that were done. Like, there's a couple of waivers that I think we've got later on, but should we talk about some of the QB changes that's happened? Do we want to start in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So, in Cleveland, how do we feel about Baker accepting his role as the backup? Like, he knows for sure Tyrod is the week 1 starter.
I like it.
I like it too.
Do we feel like, are we worried that Tyrod's going to get hurt and then Baker's rushed in when he's not ready? Or do we think that if push comes to shove and he comes in, he'll be able to hold down the fort?
Well, that's a good question. From looking at Baker through the preseason, I think he's NFL ready. I think he's already NFL ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good idea to have him as the backup and learn as much as he can, soak it all in. But if Taylor does go down, I wouldn't be concerned if I was a Browns fan. I wouldn't be concerned that if we just throw Baker in that starting role purely because we've seen what he can do. We saw him in college. I think he's matured a lot. He's already obviously NFL ready, so I wouldn't be too worried. That I think he'd be just fine if he started, but it's a really good idea that he's coming off being that second string quarterback.
Anything to add in there, Greg, or pretty much summed it up?
I think, I agree with Chance all the way, and the way I see it, just his actions just shows really he wants to do what's best for the team rather than himself.
Yeah,
Accepting the backup role, at least for the first few games, it just really shows he's a team player. So I really respect that about him.
Do you think the fact that they didn't go after someone like an AJ McCarron when he got cut, well, he didn't get cut, but he got traded from the Bills, do you think it was a mistake for them not to go after someone like that as a potential second stringer and maybe just have him on for a 1-year contract just in case something does happen to Tyrod, and that way Baker can still sit behind a starting quarterback?
No.
Nah. Yeah.
No, Baker's too good, I think. That I honestly think that by week 5, I think Baker will be starting by week 5.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd personally like to see him sit for the whole season, but I can understand why he would come in through management and stuff like that.
He'll get some playing time.
But yes, our other rookie QBs, we just talked about AJ McCarron getting traded. Josh Allen to be the week 1 starter. Who saw this coming?
Oh, I like Allen though, so
I like Allen. Like everyone who watches this or listens to this knows how much of an Allen fanboy I am. Like I'm already comparing him to Carson Wentz in his throwing motion and his play. He's just not accurate. But if he fixes that, he's going to be beautiful.
yeah. Well,
But yeah, did any of you guys see this coming? Because I did not think for a second they were starting in week 1.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think McCown would get traded to start with.
That's
but
I think.
I think this has just given him the confidence. Like the Bills have just gone, you know what? We're giving you the reins to be the leader of this team. We picked you so up in the draft. You know, we're gonna really start focusing you as a centerpiece of our team. So I think it's good. You know, 7th pick, you might as well start as early as you can. So he's got a good arm. Probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks coming into the draft, I would say.
Yeah.
Just because of the school he went to. So
I mean, even then, like up until the day of the draft, people were saying like it's between Allen and Darnold for who's going to go first, and
well, yeah, because he had a really good
he had such a good combine, yeah, and even his pro day workout was really good. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that Buffalo have seen the talent. Maybe I am surprised that this is the way that they've decided to manage it, because I think, I mean, even like with the Jets, like the Jets had such a perfect QB situation, and then just to all of a sudden ditch all of that and rush Donald in week 1, like I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, the Bills are a weird team, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel the same chance.
Because like
you can't really predict what they're gonna do.
It's like Cleveland. Like we make a joke about it, but like Cleveland does Cleveland things. But they haven't Cleveland this up yet.
No, they haven't. But you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, I think it's an experiment. That you know, let's be honest. I don't think the Bills are contending to be in the wild card. So I think they're just trying to experiment. Maybe I'm not too sure.
Do you feel like this has a big opportunity, or a big chance, I should say, to backfire on these 2 young QBs that are starting week 1 now, because neither of them are playing behind great O-lines.
Who's the other starter? Darnold.
Right? Darnold's coming in week 1 for the Jets.
Yeah. I think Josh is the most, you know, is in trouble the most just because it's the Bills. You know, no one's expecting a lot from the Jets anyway, so.
But what I mean is like it's been proven that if a rookie QB takes more than like 30 sacks in his rookie season, that they go on to play worse. You know, like we look at David Carr, which was like the most spot-on prospect in that draft class. He came out and played for Houston in that expansion draft and got knocked around like 38 times or something like that. He got sacked 38 times in a single season, and he retired like 2 years later. He was out of the league. He couldn't play anymore. So like,
yeah, he was the #1 pick too, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. So you know, like for me, that's my biggest issue with these 2 guys. I don't worry about their ability. I worry more about the situation they're in and how many sacks are they going to be able to avoid. How many interceptions are they going to throw? Because if you start throwing picks left, right, and center, that confidence is going to drop real quick. Real quick.
Yeah.
You know, like the last thing you want is Allen going out and having a 45% completion percentage through his first rookie season. Unless you're like, you know, going to pull a Jared Goff and just come back strong in your second season in the league. That doesn't happen very often. Like not many people can do a Goff where you're written off as a bust in your first rookie season, and then all of a sudden you come back to be a very serviceable to above average quarterback.
Yeah, looking at this Carr, dude, he was sacked 76 times in his rookie year.
76 times in his rookie year. I thought it was something like 38.
Nah, 76 times.
Jesus.
And had 21 fumbles. So it's and it just is all downhill from there, basically.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that concerns me, but I think I don't know. I don't really look at the Jets or the Bills too much, so I'm not too sure. I think Darnold's got the strength. I think to so I don't know. It's a weird one. It's weird. So
Yeah. I guess the other fallout from this was Teddy Bridgewater went to New Orleans.
that's a good move from New Orleans.
Because I don't know if you guys seen any of New Orleans' second string quarterback in the preseason, but it was not pretty.
I think that's great. I think they're just juicing him up for when Drew Brees ends up retiring.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for that day. I like Breeze a lot.
I think we all like Drew Brees. But I think if you're the Saints and you see that you got Teddy Bridgewater, who was, before his injury in Minnesota, was like, this is the face of the franchise. I think you're pretty happy you get him for a third-round pick, and you get him to sit behind Brees for a year as your backup. If he goes down, you've got that Nick Foles situation from last year, where you've got a more than serviceable quarterback who's a starter quality in your back pocket. So, because I think New Orleans is, Super Bowl or bust in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
for me, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not much else to say on that. I think it was a really good pickup, and it's basically a steal, Teddy Bridgewater for a third. So New Orleans, that's really smart move from their management.
And I think we talked about it before, but AJ McCarron to Oakland for a 5th rounder.
Yeah, that's a surprise move. Does that move? Do you think they're losing faith in Derek Carr?
I don't know if they're losing faith or if they're gonna pull a Luck and just sit him for a year and be like, please get your back healthy. Because McCarron's a starter quality player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why I posed that question, just because But as Derek Carr, remember 2 years ago we were talking about how he should be the MVP. So the Raiders, they are in rebuild mode, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just lost all faith in Derek Carr. Just wait out till he's healthy, wait till next offseason, try and trade him, try and get rid of him.
Yeah.
So,
how do you see this, Greg? Do you think it's probably to replace Carr? Or do you think they're bringing him as a backup, for a healthy Carr, or?
Yeah, I see it more as a backup situation. But like Chance said, it's a pretty interesting move there. And again, the one that threw me because but at this stage, I see it as more of a backup situation.
okay.
Yeah.
You got to remember, Derek Carr's on a pretty big contract with the Rays at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
That's true.
A huge contract.
Yeah.
And then Martavis Bryant, the problem child from Pittsburgh, who got traded in the offseason, was cut from Oakland's 53-man final roster and
That's so sad.
facing league suspension. So, this is a huge blow to the Raiders because they had a pretty good receiving core coming into the season for the free agency. Look, I don't know what this guy's gonna do. I don't think anyone wants him at this point. If you can't make it in Pittsburgh and you're getting cut by Oakland, a week before you go out for week 1, I think that says more about who you are as a person than your ability as a player.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Sad because he had a really good college career. He had a decent first couple of years with the Steelers. Of course, that was a lot to do with he missed a lot of games with suspension and injury. So, but yeah, it's as you said, Kurt. If you get cut a week out from week 1 from the Raiders of all teams, it's not looking good. So.
But yeah, what else did we have come out from the week? Jarrett McKinnon from the Ravens is out for the season from a torn ACL. Really sucks. He's a good player. I had him on my fantasy last year actually, and he came through in a couple weeks. But yeah, man, ACLs are such a common injury nowadays. It's it's a year. The season's gone, but hopefully he'll be back and healthy by preseason next year and can.
That's a huge blow for the 49ers, hey?
Oh, is that for the 49? Oh, it is. He got traded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Because what?
who's their
They
secondary running back? Because they traded Hyde.
Yeah, they lost Hyde and they picked up McKinnon.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't I don't even know. I have to look at their roster, but you know.
Yeah.
He's Alfred Morris.
Which that's a no-name running back. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's a huge loss for the 49ers. I forgot that he'd been traded. But yeah.
Yeah.
Paxton Lynch, which I think we can all agree is a huge bust. Former first round pick for the Denver Broncos is just cut from their 53-man roster. Not even like waived and picked up by another team, just straight up cut.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, he's a bust. He was trash. So yeah, not too surprised.
What else did we have? We had Mike Gillislee, who got cut from New England, and picked up by New Orleans. I don't think New Orleans need another running back, but Mike Gillislee is a good player that needs to be in the league.
Mm.
Yeah, I think maybe that's like a backup pick just in case, you know, Kamara gets hurt or something.
Because Ingram will be
I
coming
guess.
back in 4 weeks as well when he finishes. Is it 4 weeks or
Yeah, something like that.
when he finishes his suspension and any injury concerns?
Yeah,
But
it's 4 weeks.
I mean, you'd think you don't need a third or fourth string receiver at that point. Oh, sorry, running back at that point, because Kamara is going to be your bread and butter. He's going to be your Elliott. You're just going to feed him 300 times.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I don't see why they made this pickup. It makes sense. Like Gillislee's a good player, but unless you're going to try and trade him for draft capital, I don't see the point.
Yeah.
More or less.
And I guess the last couple things we saw was Brett Hundley cut from Green Bay. So Deshaun Kaiser won the backup role in Green Bay, which shows you how bad Brett Hundley is.
Mm.
And he went to Seattle for a 6th round. For a 6th
Yeah.
round pick. Jeez. That's got to be a huge demoralizing thing that you lost your job to the quarterback that went 0-16.
Mm.
Is he in his second year?
Brett Hundley, I think he's in his 3rd, isn't he?
No, Deshaun
Oh,
Kaiser.
Deshaun Kaiser, yeah. It was his rookie year
He's in
last
his
year.
sophomore, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then Brashad Perryman got cut from the Baltimore Ravens 53-man roster, who a couple of years ago was their first-round wide receiver pick. So that's really not promising. I think he's going to be out of the league now if he can't make it there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all the news, isn't it? Unless I've missed something.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the only other biggest news I would say is, you know, Adrian Peterson going to, you know, Washington for a vet min.
Oh,
Just add another running back.
that's right. And we got confirmation
Warriors.
that Marquise Lee is out for the season with that
Yeah.
blown knee, torn ACL.
Uh,
Yeah.
But yeah. What we've got next, fellas? Is it an in-depth breakdown of some of our teams, or are we going into
Mhm.
predictions for next week?
Oh, I don't mind where we go. We'll go with your Eagles because you know we might as well just do your team
yeah,
rundown
let's
of the
hear
Eagles.
what you have to say about the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean it's the first game of the week anyway. It's the first game of the season, so this will be a good segue in anyway. The Philadelphia Eagles are kind of worrying me as an Eagles fan. The fact that Nick Foles went for 14 consecutive drives in the preseason without scoring a point. That's not scoring a touchdown. That's not scoring a point. No field goal, nothing. That's terrifying. That he is our starting QB in week 1. And that's like the form he's in. He went from Super Bowl MVP to someone that I think would struggle to make a 53-man roster if it wasn't for those 2 games last season.
Yeah.
In your wideouts, we still don't know the health of Alshon Jeffries. We know that Nelson Aguilar, who's a good slot receiver, can't really play that X role. And then I don't know that much about Mike Wallace. I haven't seen that much of his tape, but from what I see, he's more of a Z. And I don't know who you bring up from that, 3rd, 4th string to fill those gaps if Jeffries is out. Ertz is always going to be huge. And
Yeah, I think you guys are lucky you have Hurts.
yeah, Ertz is like a top 3 tight end in the league at the moment. Because I think it's probably Gronk, Kelsey, and him. I think that's probably the top 3.
Yeah, I'd say that.
I can't really think of anyone else off the top of my head that's probably better than those three.
Well, the only one I can think of is Jimmy Graham, and seeing him go to the Packers. We'll see
Yeah.
how it has that potential.
I feel like Jimmy
Really,
Graham's like starting to get into the twilight of his career, but Rodgers likes
Yeah,
his
he's
big
having his prime,
targets.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that ends. But yeah, on the offensive line, things are looking good. As long as Jason Peters stays healthy, because apparently, from talk that's inside the Eagles camp, Vita Vea, who was the starting left tackle for the last half of the season for the Eagles, has had a shocking training camp in preseason. He has lost all confidence in his ability to play. They were even talking about starting Jordan Mailata, their 7th round rugby league player, over him. Let that sink in for a second. A guy that's played NFL for 3 months is in better football condition than someone who won a Super Bowl.
Damn.
That's the stories that are coming out of the Eagles training camp. So if that is the case, and Jason Peters is an old guy, like he's a veteran in this league, if he goes down, that could be shocking for the Eagles. Because like you put Nick Foles in there, someone who is feeling the pressure himself, and now he's got to worry about his blind side being guarded by a guy who's either played football for 3 months or a guy that has zero confidence, and all of a sudden you're talking about Sack City.
Pretty desperate situation.
So like as an Eagles fan, I'm super worried going into the season. Once we get those like star players back, the second Wentz comes back healthy, if Jeffries is in the starting lineup, it's a different story. But like once you get into that second string, I don't think it's as strong as it was last year. On the defensive side of the ball, everything got stronger. You got Haloti Ngata and Michael Bennett coming in to make that front 7 rotation even more disgusting. We get Jordan Hicks back from injury. He should be really good and help stabilize that linebacking core, which was a huge weakness of the Eagles last year. And then in the backfield, we lost Michael Robinson to the Saints as one of the star quarterbacks and almost a shutdown corner. But they just couldn't afford to pay him the $20 million contract that he wanted. So unfortunately, they saw him go. But we've still got one of the best safeties in the league in Malcolm Jenkins. You've got good, serviceable CBs, in Ronald Darby.
Who's your free safety?
I don't know it off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
Is it Corey Graham?
It might be.
Okay.
I had the list up earlier today, and I was looking at it, and I was like, this is a really good secondary. Surprisingly, because I thought the secondary for the Eagles was shocking last year, but it was actually sneaky good.
Okay, yeah. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't tell you who the
Corey
free
Graham.
safety is off the top of my head. I should know that.
Okay.
But yeah, on the defense side of the ball, I'm 100% sold that the Eagles are going to do what the Eagles did last year. They're going to be a wall. They're going to get sacks. They're going to get picks. Not having that shutdown corner in Robinson, though, I don't know if we're going to have as many picks, which might mean that their fantasy score's a little lower. But they're going to be solid. They're going to get 3 and outs a lot. And then, yeah, a lot of my worries are on that offensive side of the ball. You got Carson not coming back from... he's not even cleared for contact yet. He can't practice with pads on. So, not only the fact that you have to play the game with your backup quarterback, when he comes back, you're going to have to redo all of your times with your entire offense for a new QB halfway through the season. So, yeah, as a Philly fan, I see a lot of warning signs on the, on the horizon. Look,
Do you still believe you guys are the best team in the NFC East?
if they're healthy, yeah. But I guess that's the same for every team, isn't it? If your team
No.
stays healthy, you're going to be the best team.
No, not for Washington. Not for Washington.
It's so unpredictable in that division.
Yeah, the NFC East is just it's so close. I don't know if I've brought this stat up before, but for the last 4 years, the team that's come last has won the division the next year. So
Yeah.
The Giants.
yeah, so the Giants could come out of nowhere and win it. They've got a sneaky good team, as we'll talk about
Well,
later.
Yeah, I will be talking about that later.
But yeah, as far as how I think the Eagles will do, I still think they're a 12-4 team if they can stay healthy. If they can work out their shit on the O-line, if Big V can get his confidence back, then all of a sudden you go from having five all pros on that offensive line to maybe having 6 people that can be on a Pro Bowl team.
Yeah.
And I mean, that means that your depth on that offensive line is just huge, and you can just keep going forward no matter what happens. But The running game's going to be a little bit lessened from losing LeGarrette Blunt, but Jay will just do his thing. He's going to be the J train no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And you get Darren Sproles back, and him and Corey Clement could do some like really sneaky, trick plays, and they could have some, lots of short screens because those guys are so quick and such good receivers. That between the three receivers, the three backs that you've got to prepare for as a defense, you can see so many looks that it might just be able to get those yards, and you might be able to bring in three different running backs on, one set of downs.
Yeah.
Which I don't think a lot of teams can do, and then like all of a sudden a defense has to practice for three different looks for three different running backs on the same down, which could be very interesting. But yeah, so as far as the Eagles go, I mean, I'm hopeful, but yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna spoil it, but I am taking Atlanta in the first game in the season opener.
Okay. Alright, sweet.
Yeah.
And I guess that leads us into our picks. I guess I've already said what I'm going with. I'm going with Atlanta to win that first game.
Yeah, I've gone Philly. Just because I'm not convinced by the Falcons. I'm not overly sold on Matt Ryan. So, yeah, I'm going Philly.
I'm gonna pick Philly as well. A bit of a different reason from what Chance said is because the way I see Atlanta, they can only really play one side of the ball, and that's obviously offense. And I think Philly's defense will be able to keep them in check. So even though, as you mentioned, Kurt, Philly's offense is not really, or is a bit of a concern. I think they'll be able to hold their ground for this one.
Yeah, again, the reason I've gone Atlanta is for what I specified in like week 1 Philadelphia issues. But you look at that Atlanta offense, and they're going to score 30 points. I don't know if the Eagles can score 30 points in week 1. That's the only reason that I'm going Atlanta.
Are you that confident in Atlanta's offense, even with a defense like the Eagles have?
They have the best offense in football, like regardless. Like if they had a number 1 running back, you could not stop them from scoring 40 points a game. The fact that they don't have an A-grade running back is the only thing that's stopping them, because it means that you can always play cover and you don't have to play man with 8 in the box. But Julio's always going to get double team, which means you've got Sanu and now Ridley as your Z, and you can run some disgusting routes. You can go 4 wide receivers. You can play, 3 receivers and a tight end, and you can just give the defense so many weird looks that if you catch any hint of like anything pre-snap with a hard count, those receivers are going to win their one-on-ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I have worries about Steve Sarkisian's play calling, because they could have won that game last year in the playoffs against Philly. They just had some really bad play calling. So if they fix that coming into this season, then they should be able to just roll over Philly in this first week.
Wow.
Well, that will lead off us to our next game, Buffalo and Baltimore.
Chance, you're the dissenting opinion, so...
I'm only going Buffalo purely because I didn't want to go the same route as both you and Greg.
Right.
Just because it's no fun when we all tip the same team. So I might as well... I'm really regretting that pick now.
Did you make your Buffalo pick before you realized that Allen was starting in week 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I told you before the podcast, I don't know that McKinnon was traded.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm keeping my pick now. Let's go Buffalo.
Alright, Buffalo it is for you.
Yeah, look, this is going to be a game where either Allen's going to come out and have just the welcome to the NFL moment and get laid on his ass, or he's going to go huge and throw for 400 yards and 12 touchdowns. Like, it's going to be one or the other, you know? I wonder, knowing that they're starting against Josh Allen, if they play Lamar.
Yeah, no, they won't. No, they won't. They'll start Flacco.
Like, I think that they shouldn't play Lamar this entire season, but, like, do you think they look at Allen and go, alright, let's see who got the better QB?
No, they're not.
They won't.
No, they won't do that.
They'll play the safe card.
It's Baltimore at home,
Yeah.
man. Like, I think they're so hungry for something good that they might just do it.
No.
They'll still go flat,
they'll stick with Flacco. I agree 100%.
But yeah, I've picked Baltimore because I hope that they do the right thing and play Flacco, and I think
Yeah.
that just overall they're a better roster.
I just think that Baltimore's a less like it is more of a predictable team, really.
Yeah.
You know, like it makes like what they're doing makes sense. But if I look at like what Buffalo's been recently doing, like I think it raises more questions. So that's why I'm picking Baltimore this round.
Okay.
What do you reckon, Kurt?
Yeah, like I said, Baltimore's just a better roster at the moment.
Yeah.
The Bengals at Indianapolis against the Colts. I'm the dissenting opinion here. I've gone for Indianapolis at home.
Talk to us about that. That was pretty interesting.
So Andrew Luck's back. When Andrew Luck
Yeah,
plays
we'll
for the
get
Colts, they're 10-16. The Bengals are not. So I'm just gonna say that this is gonna be one of the games that they win. There's not much more analysis than that, other than Andrew Luck is a god when he's playing healthy, and I don't like the Bengals this
But
year.
how healthy is Andrew Luck really?
He hasn't played football in 500 days. I think he's gonna.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. How healthy can he really be?
Well, here's the question: is he healthy enough to beat a Bengals team? And I think the answer is yes.
Oh my god.
Like,
You know what
as long as he's able to throw a football, I think he's able to beat the Bengals. Like, I don't see a way that the Bengals just go and upset this game unless, you know, the Colts just decide to, like, turn into the glue factory that they are, and will just start, like, lying down and letting the Bengals walk over them and sack Andrew Luck 12 times in the game.
Okay. I'm just going Cincinnati because it's the Colts.
I'm just thinking, aside from T.Y. Hilton, who else is Andrew Luck going to throw to?
I don't know.
No one.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. He's done it in the past with no-name receivers. Like, again, it's Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is in that tier of, like, Matt Stafford, where he's, like, got a gun arm. Just no one realizes how good he is because he plays for a trash team.
Yeah.
And the Colts did beat Cincinnati in the last preseason game.
I mean, that's got to give some
As
sort of
well.
confidence to their fourth stringers that are cut from the team now.
Yeah.
That's a fair point there.
I'm
Okay.
going Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We move on to the game here, which I've picked as my game of the week, which is the Houston Texans taking on the Patriots. And Greg, you are the deciding vote here. You're the one who's gone opposite to the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
why
not
is
agree.
that? Why is that?
Patriots, it's the Patriots. Because think about it, if you're on the Patriots, right, you lose the Super Bowl the previous season, aren't you going to be hungry to win it this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like,
I don't care if you're up against a monster team like the Texans. Yes, they are a dangerous team. They look like they can play both sides of the ball. But just remember, it's the Patriots.
yeah,
They
but
always find a way.
the Pats always come out slow the first 4 weeks of a season. They don't have. They have a new defensive coordinator.
Last year as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a new defensive coordinator. They have, like, absolute dissent in the locker room. You know, Malcolm Butler gone, which was the captain of their defense. They've lost more than one weapon on the offense. Julian Edelman's still on suspension for PEDs.
Oh, dude.
I
Yeah,
think the Pats will pull this off.
You gotta really hope that Tom Brady just has a 500-yard game.
Because, you know, we talked about, like, who's Andrew Luck going to throw to? Who's Tom Brady going to throw to if Gronk, like, gets taken out of any
Chris
time?
Hogan, bro.
Yeah, like, that's it. That's his only receiver. Chris Hogan is their only receiver that's worth a damn, that's left on their roster at the moment because Edelman's out.
Yeah.
And Chris Hogan is a slot receiver that plays between the numbers and will get you 10 yards at most because he's running under cover zones. And the only reason that he could run cover zones last season was because Brandon Cooks was running the deep route and stretching your safeties.
You want a quarterback who can play with anybody? It's Tom Brady.
It's Tom Brady. Tom Brady will find someone to throw to. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying with, like, Luck. Luck will just find someone to get it to. But, like, as far as, like, what the Texans are working with, it's like the Patriots are bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, the
Which
Texans are
is
just too
countless
strong,
times.
man. I think the
That
Texans are
countless
still
times,
winning.
and they've always ended up having the.
Like, I think
Yeah.
back to the game against New England Texans last year, and it was an absolute shootout between Deshaun and Tom Brady the entire game. They just went
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and forth, and it was an absolute shootout. It was so much fun to watch.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good game, I think. So
I think it'd be a really good
that's
game.
why, that's why I picked as my game of the week.
I had this set as my game of the week as well until I saw a game that's coming later on, which I think will be the game that decides a division later on in the season.
Mm.
Um, and then I
okay.
guess where we go to is Jacksonville against the New York Giants in
Mhm.
New York. And I guess I'm the only one that's gone for Jacksonville.
For obvious reasons.
Um,
I mean,
why?
Jacksonville's got a solid outfit. I like them. Their defense speaks for itself.
Yeah, like their defense is still going to be top tier. You've
Yeah.
got an absolute no-fly zone with AJ Boye and Jalen Ramsey, and that as your cornerbacks. Like they're going to be a hard team to beat because they're going to be able to
Yeah.
hold you to a decent score, and hopefully
Yeah.
Blake Bortles doesn't Blake Bortles it up.
Yeah, well, I'll go New York. I'll go into depth a little bit later, just after we do the picks, because that's my, outside chances for the week. So
Mm.
I'll go more in depth after that. But yeah, I've gone New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just move on to, the Steelers versus the Browns, and of course I'm the only one who went Cleveland.
Explain yourself, son.
I don't know. Jarvis Landry.
Look, I don't think you're as out of your mind as you are because I was actually on the fence for this game as well. Pittsburgh are notorious for playing down to their competition. They're going to Cleveland, a Cleveland that is finally feeling like they might be able to win a game.
Mm.
Like-
they're gonna win a game.
Like this is what I'm saying. Like this is a team that has gone 1-31.
31 in the last 2 years.
1-31.
That's just heartbreaking.
Like
That's why I've gone for Cleveland.
they
We've got the
need a
heart of the
win.
other-
It's
Let's
at
go
home.
Cleveland.
It's an opener where they think they might have an 8-8 season. I don't think you're too far off from saying this could be a Cleveland win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go Cleveland.
I'm still sitting with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've taken Pittsburgh on this week as well. So
Oh well.
I mean, I can see your reasoning, but again, I don't like Cleveland enough to say, yeah, they're going to be able to beat Pittsburgh. Mostly
Yeah,
because their
they're going-
secondary isn't going to be able to hold Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown down.
Look, their direction is good, but I don't think Cleveland's there just yet.
Yeah, let's speed this up quickly. We got what 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 more games, so we'll just go quickly.
Yeah, I think once we
Yeah.
get through like the next two, they're all pretty simple. Like,
Yeah, so like we've all gone Minnesota over 49ers.
which I think could be a really interesting game.
I think I'm gonna say that's my game of the week.
Fair enough.
Why?
Yeah.
Seeing
I mean-
Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins dueling it out, that could be really fun.
Yeah, not just just one of those games that could be a box full of surprises really, but I think it'd be from a fan point of view a good game to watch.
Yeah, and then we've all gone the Saints over the Bucks for obvious reasons.
I don't think there's much to say about that game. It's the Bucks.
No. As well as the next game we've all gone for Tennessee over Miami,
The Dolphins
Mate,
are in
we're not even
rebuild.
back in the go.
and then
Right.
so then we've got Kurt's game of the week,
Yep.
which is the Chargers and Chiefs. We've all gone Chargers, but Kurt, why did you pick it as your game of the week?
So I picked this as my game of the week because I think it decides who is going to win that division. Not only because it'll come down to head to head, but also because if Pat Mahomes is what the Chiefs think he is, then not only are they going to win this game, they're going to win the division, and they could have a real shot at like a Super Bowl. Because that offense is just so good. If you've got a guy with an arm that they think that Mahomes has, with Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, like that is an offense that is going to put defenses on their ass. Same goes with the Chargers though. The Chargers are sneaky good. Like we said this last year, they were having a good kicker away from being a 13-3 team.
Yeah.
Like,
more or less.
They really were. They lost 4 games by one field goal, one missed field goal.
That hurts.
Not only that,
hurts.
like nearly every single one of their losses was a one possession game. Like this is a very good team that's on the brink of being great. So these are two teams that I think it's between the sneaky good and the unknown factor in the young quarterback.
Mm.
So yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then here we've got foregone for the Panthers to beat the Cowboys.
yeah, I think.
I'm assuming it's just because we all hate the Cowboys.
Well, yeah, that's a bit, and also I think Carolina actually has a chance of making playoffs, and I don't think Dallas does.
Yeah. And then we go to our next interesting one where Kurt and I have gone for Denver,
Yeah.
but then for some weird reason, Greg, you've gone for the struggling, rebuilding Seahawks.
Let's make it interesting, really. That kind of thing.
They're so bad.
In all honesty, I really think this is a game that can go either way.
No, it's not.
No, it's
Unless-
not.
Unless Russell Wilson passes for 400 yards and rushes for 100 plus.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson will have to single-handedly have every single record broken in a game to win this game.
Yeah.
They're not even on the same level, Greg.
Well, if they lose, they lose. If they win, well, prove you guys wrong. Honest, but again, I think it'd be a game worth watching. That one.
Yeah.
48 rematch, that kind of thing. Teams that are obviously Seahawks are in rebuild with a huge amount of key players lost in the off season.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a brave move that one, but we'll see how that goes.
Yep, and then next one, we've got Kurt and Greg going for the Cards, and I'm just going for my Washington Redskins, just because it's my Washington Redskins,
Fair
and
enough.
because Alex Smith is very good in the first 4 or 5 weeks.
Alex Smith is a gun in the first 4 weeks, but so is Sam Bradford, and we know he'll play at least one quarter.
No, but AP, you can't forget about AP God running back.
That's true, but they've
He's
got
gonna prove the
they've got
Cards
David
wrong.
Johnson, so
Yeah, he's my fantasy pick as well. So
I think you win either way in this week.
yeah, so it's a win-win for me. So I don't really care. And then we've all gone for the Packers over the Bears,
Yep.
just because I think the Packers will just have a stronger outfit.
I think the Packers will win that division. I don't think the Bears this season will. So
You think the Packers will win it over?
Minnesota, yeah.
I'm pulling the Vikings.
So the only reason that like Green Bay was terrible last season, that's not even something that anyone can argue. But Minnesota got really lucky last season that their entire defense stayed healthy and Aaron Rodgers didn't play in both the games that they played them. So
I'm calling the Packers a wildcard team, but I'm still think that Minnesota will win the division.
interesting.
Yeah. And then we go on to the Jets and Lions, and once again I go differently to the other two boys by going for Detroit, just because everyone who listens to this podcast knows I have a huge man crush on Matt Stafford. I think he's a gun, most underrated quarterback in the league by far. Yeah, thinking about it now, he has no real weapons to throw to,
I mean, he's got Golden Tate.
except Tate. But I think the Jets could cover him quite well. So,
I mean, look, this will be a game that's decided by how good Darnold plays. It's going to be all the spotlight on him. How does he handle the pressure? I think he'll do all right. That's why I've gone for the Jets.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the last game of the round, we've all gone for the Rams over the Raiders, which is
I think
fair
this.
to say that.
I think this could be a 60-point blowout.
Holy crap!
I think this
60
could be
points?
60-0. I genuinely think this game could be 60-0 to the Rams.
Is this game in LA?
It's at
Yeah.
it's at the Raiders. So yeah,
No, yeah. So it's in Oakland.
yeah.
Okay. Jeez, 60 points. All right.
Wow. Okay, so that's our predictions for the week.
Yep.
We'll keep you guys updated, of course, throughout the week what's going on. So, and then we'll just move on to our last section, which is my outside chances.
Chances outside chances.
Talk
Yeah,
through
so-
it.
This week I've picked the Giants to upset the Jags. I'm serious because I hate the Giants. I absolutely hate them. But the reasons here, I've got 4 reasons, right? And you guys can agree or disagree with me after I say each one. So my first reason for why the New York Giants will upset the Jags and will shake up the league is their new and improved 3-4 defense. I think switching to a more common defensive lineup, the Giants are now able to exploit their size and the D line, their linebackers coupled with the quickness, of their secondary, the defense is quite scary looking. I think for a few years now, I think that the Giants are known for their defense, and it's not been up to par the last few years. But I think this year, I think they've got it all sorted. Also, they're Greg, you can probably agree with me here. Your D line, although they're really big, they're also quite quick. So
Yeah.
I think you'll see a lot of them. You'll see a lot of blitz plays. I think from the Giants, which will just cause the offense to be a little bit, struggle. Might be struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Guys, agree with that so far?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then my second
I have a
point,
question for you before you move on.
Yep.
Do you think the Giants went to a 3-4 because they lost JPP, or they got rid of JPP because they wanted to go to a 3-4?
I think going to a more common defensive lineup in the 3-4. I think that's what they were always trying to plan, because the 4-3 wasn't really working. We can all agree on that. So I think they might have. And JPP, he was asking for a big contract that I don't think they could have afforded. So
Yeah.
Do you think by getting suckered into by playing this style that they might get suckered into playing too much nickel?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the coach. I guess the defensive coordinator. I think there'll be more of a blitz team than a setting up in the nickel formation. Just because their D line are big but really quick as well.
Mm.
So I think more of a blitz than a nickel or dime sort of look outfit. So that kind of links onto my next point, which is the strong defensive unit. Although they lost, as we were saying, JPP to the Bucks, they did go ahead and they grabbed Alec Ogletree. It was a really good piece to have, especially in that inside linebacker position. He adds experience, and also he's quite a good footballer. I haven't seen too much of him, just the fact that I've just seen a couple highlights. But I think what it is now for the Giants is their corners. I think Eli Apple will have a really big breakout year. He showed really good glimpses of brilliance last year. He has great coverage, his quickness, and he can read the opposing play quite well. And I think we can all agree he's starting to look like that top 10 pick that the Giants hoped he would be. Coupled with Jenkins, he came off. He had a season-ending injury last season, limited him to 9 games. But he was on track for 6+ intercepts, and I think that's not off the table this year. I think he could go well above 6, maybe even up to that 8-10 spot. And along with Eli, I think teams will be really second guessing whether or not to throw the ball, and then which will just help them with their blitz game, rushing game. So and then I think your X factor this year is Oliver Vernon. He came off quite a decent season last year. Got 6.5 sacks. He was people forget he was in the 2016 second team All Pro. So I think now I think he's like 26 or 27. He's just entering his prime, so you could really see him return to that All Pro status this season. So you guys agree with that defensive stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's all true. The thing I have to question though is Eli Apple. Like, when you're getting called a cancer by Landon Collins in your own dressing room, that's not a good sign. People are comparing him to Mike Mitchell, and they're both compared to like these just absolute terrible teammates who care nothing about the game and only about themselves. Like, do you think that his ability as a football player will allow him to like get over those issues, or do you think the fact that he has those issues so early in his career and the leadership of that defensive team already dislikes him and has these these things that they're openly talking to the media about? Like,
I think that's a really good point. However, I just think the maturity aspect. I think that comes into play, but also they add in a guy like Ogletree who's not going to take any crap from anyone. So he really gives that leadership role, so to speak. So I'm not too sure. It depends. Yeah, again, it's the attitude. I don't know, but I really think, hopefully, fingers crossed, that Eli comes good and does well. So yeah. And then I look at looking at your roster, Greg. And I strongly believe that you guys, your offensive unit, is better than it was last year.
Mm.
Again, you're getting healthy OBJ. With his recent contract, he's the highest receiver, and he's easily a top three receiver in the game, probably behind Brown and maybe Hopkins. So I say that. I don't know if you guys would agree with me there, but he makes route running look so easy.
Mm.
But if he stays healthy, he's in the discussion for offensive player of the year.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. The signing of the former Patriot Nate Solder, I think that's really good for you guys.
Yeah.
Barkley is going to lead the rush game for the Giants. I think he's going to be your starting running back. I think he's going to be top 15 in rushing for the year.
Mm.
And then you come to my X factor for your offense is Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think he's a sleeper for the top 5 tight ends in the league. As we mentioned earlier, we listed our top 3, but I think you can make an argument for Ingram. He had the best rookie year for any Giants tight end in history.
Yeah.
And with the year under his belt, I can see him having a large role to play in the Giants offense. And he has the potential to be a Pro Bowler and propel him into the star and all-pro status.
Yeah.
I think, he's so young. I think he's only 22 or 23. He's a workhorse. I think you guys I think Manning is starting to realize that. So I think he's in for a really big year. And then all that, nothing can happen unless you have a good coach.
Yeah.
And I think Pat Shermer is the perfect coach for you guys. He's the former head coach of the Browns and offensive coordinator for the Rams, Eagles, and Vikings.
Yeah.
And I think having a new face in there and a fresh face, trying to mixing it up, I think might do a world of wonders for you for the Giants.
Yeah.
And I seriously think they could not only win this game this week, but also turn some heads. And probably I would even put them in that wild card discussion.
Mm.
So, you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think pretty much everything you said. I'd say you forgot Julio Jones, and I don't think you can talk about the top receivers in the league without talking about Julio. It's because he is a freak of nature. But yeah, everything that you said was right. They had what? Their entire first string of wide receivers got injured last year. They had no run game. Their O-line was absolutely abysmal. People were giving up on plays on defense. Nate Solder will make a huge difference to the amount of time that Eli has in that pocket. Barkley should just be able to force 8 people in the box. He should have an almost Elliott type of impact on how defense have to prep for the Giants. Evan Ingram's a bit of a mystery. Like, he was an absolute monster at Clemson at college. And then last year he had a great season, but was it because of the fact that everyone was out? Or is it going to have an even better season because now people are doubling OBJ? You've got Sterling Shepard on the other side. You've got Barkley, which brings an 8th man into the box. So he can run those under routes and just keep getting 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards under the line and under coverage every single go. And that can be an easy check down for Eli. That could make them an even more dangerous team than we think they are.
I think Ingram's definitely one of those reliable players, like one of those guys you can count on the team.
Yeah, no, also, yeah. He had a great game. He had a great college career at Ole Miss, was it?
Was it Ole Miss? I thought he was a Clemson player.
No, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss?
Ole Miss? Ole Miss. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then, he's quite quick as well for a tight end.
Yeah.
I think he ran the 40 and 4.4.
Yeah, that's quick. That's quick 40.
So, he has the most touchdowns in a season by a rookie for the Giants. Most games with 30 plus receiving yards. So he's quite a good. He even holds records. Like, looking here, he's got the most consecutive games with 4+ receptions, 50+ receiving yards, and a touchdown by a rookie tight end. So he's right up there. I think he's going to be in the next 4 or 5 years. We could be discussing him as the best player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then I guess the only question I have for you talking about, the Giants going forward is Eli their limiting factor?
Yes, and no, sort of. I guess. I really thought that the Giants would draft a quarterback in this year.
Mm.
I thought just because Eli's getting up there, but it's hard. It's hard to say really. I guess New York is always a free agent market, not just in the NFL, but in all sport, all American sport.
Yeah.
So I think they could attract a free agent, especially with this young talent that they've got, young offensive talent.
Also,
I think they can attract some players.
I'd have to double check this, but I believe is it Webb got cut from their 53 man?
Yeah,
Because I know Geno Smith got traded last season, like in the free agency, and I think
Yeah.
Webb got cut. So who is their backup quarterback?
oh, Greg would have to know that one.
Oh, I'll get back to you on that one.
Because yeah, that's a worry. Like a 37-year-old Eli Manning, the amount of sacks he took last year, they're lucky he didn't get injured then. But like, I mean, if you've got a team this good and you're relying on like, a third string backup QB, it's kind of worrying in my opinion. Like,
Is it Alex Tanney, your guys' backup?
Believe so.
I've never heard of him before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, I don't know. Looking at this team, they've got a great like roster, but I think the entire NFC East does at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
the NFC's absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
I think you could name nearly 8 teams in the NFC that could win the NFC this year.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you'd be,
so, yeah.
I think you'd be hard pressed to think that the Giants will do worse than 8-8.
Yeah.
No, I see them as a 10-16, to be honest.
I see them closer to 10-6 with their roster as well, but
I'll
I
say
think they're a very good team.
I'd say 10-6.
yeah, I think we went through their roster like a couple weeks ago, Greg. We were like, these guys will be like,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team, but they're going to be good.
I agree with you. The whole QB fiasco here. How have it like just only think of Eli as like the quarterback and that kind of thing. And like if worst case comes to worst, who can we rely on? It's a really interesting scenario there. So I agree with you.
Because if they're in the playoff hunt and Eli goes down, they're going to have to pay a king's ransom for someone's second string quarterback.
Well, I hope to God.
Because like say we're in like week 11 and Eli goes down, all of a sudden you are scrambling around the league to find someone that can throw a football, and you might end up paying like a second rounder for Brock Osweiler.
Yeah. I mean, where's Colin Kaepernick these days?
Yeah, that's true. Give Cap a call.
Oh wait.
I mean, who knows? Maybe like halfway through the season, Baltimore will decide to cut RG3, and maybe like he'll end up in New York. But
Oh god.
Oh my.
but yeah, I think that's all from us today.
Yeah.
That wraps up our preseason shows, and starting next week, we'll have our first proper show of the regular season.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you guys think might be the strangest outcome this week? Like, we've gone through our predictions, we've gone through our chances, outside chances. What's
That
like
Miami win.
that Miami win?
Yeah.
That Miami win.
Man, I'm gonna say if the Bucks even put up a fight against the Saints, it's gonna be something.
No, actually, you know what? I'm gonna change mine. That the Rams don't score 60.
Like, realistically, what do you think the Rams are gonna put on Oakland?
I'm gonna say 30 to 40 maybe. I don't think 60. 60 is a bit extreme.
60 is a bit extreme, but we're talking about the Raiders here.
You gotta give the Raiders some credit.
Do we though? It's Gruden and a Khalil Mackless Raiders defense without Alec Ogletree.
Oh, no, they're not getting 60.
I'm gonna say 30-10.
30-10. I mean, like, that's a normal score.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like 46-3.
Jesus. Like, that's a blowout, but
Actually, no. I changed mine. 30-5.
wait, there's gonna be a safety? Safety?
No, no, no. It's not gonna
Field
be
goal and a safety.
Oh. Who knows? Who knows?
Anyway,
Yeah, low scoring on Oakland's behalf, but I wouldn't call like just a blood, that kind of thing.
I don't know if we'll even have that game done by the time we come back on air because we'll do it on the Sunday, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The price of being halfway across the world.
Anyway, I think that's us for today. That wraps up the show. We'll see you guys on Sunday, 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Time next week. We had to move it to Monday for personal reasons, but thank you to everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you guys. See you next week.